guys, what's going on? My name's Tyler McNabb, and this is my 400EX. So, it's the week after the Hoosier GNCC, got the quad home and all cleaned up, and I figured, you know what? It's a nice day out, might as well do another video. So, today we're going to be doing a walk around of the quad. I'm going to tell you all the different parts that are on it. Pretty much just let you know what it all has on it and what I think of the parts, and let's get right into it. So the first thing we can talk about kind of from an appearance standpoint is, as you remember, these are brand new OEM Honda plastics. Got them straight from Honda. They're nice and shiny, good and durable, so I figured I might as well go ahead and pick up OEM ones again. The graphics, they came from Pro Graphics. She did, Elizabeth Harper is her name. She designed them, made them, and they've always been good quality graphics, so I figured I'd stick with them. Next thing would be the Foreworks hood. So this hood is carbon fiber. It's real carbon fiber, so it's light. It's very light. And this is made specifically for the 400EXs. It's made for the 99 to 04 models, so you have to cut off the headlight assembly to be able to put it on, but I think it makes the quad look really good. Plus that front grille, I love the look of that. It looks really great. Next thing, I guess we'll start up with the handlebars. So I've got my Fast Flex handlebars. They work really well. You've got the elastomers down here. They help to dampen some of the force and everything. Then I've got, you can switch out all the different bar pads and stuff. I've got the American flag one on to just kind of blend in with the graphics and everything. Next thing is grips. So I've got, I'm not sure if it's Ori or Auri, how you pronounce it, but I love them. They're very thick grip, and it's very soft. Helps with reducing blisters and that kind of thing. Stock Honda throttle. For hand guards, I'm running PowerMed. It's got the full shield, and then also the wraparounds, just to be safe. On this side of the handlebar, one of the nicest things on this quad, in my opinion, I love, is this. You can see the brand here, Magura hydraulic clutch. It is really nice. I can show you down here. We pull that. It's got the hydraulic cylinder. We pull it and it pulls the clutch, so then you don't have to worry about a cable. It is a super easy pull, and it makes it so even when you're racing and stuff, you don't have to, you don't get too tired pulling the clutch and everything. Okay, so next we can work our way down from here. So attached to that, I think this is an LSR clamp, and then that's attached to a Hauser steering stem. This is pretty much the original that the guy that owned it before me, he put on it years ago. It's actually a little bit bent, if you can not sure if you can tell, but that right side I think is a tad lower. But yeah, it's a tiny bit bent, so I'm in need of a new one. But Hauser steering stem, good and heavy duty. I'm not sure what the brand of this kill switch is, but they're required, and I think it already had it on it when it came, so got a kill switch. Let's look at the front end, I guess, here. So I've got, along with my Hauser steering stem, we've got Hauser long travel A-arms, and these are XC width, so they're actually, I think they're plus 1 inch on each side. So I think factory, the 400 is 46 inches wide, so that would put it at 48 inches wide if you're on normal wheels. But I am running the Hyper 4:1 offset fronts, and then the Hyper, I think it's like 4.5 by 4.5 rears. So those Hyper wheels are super nice. They're like a carbon fiber composite that they're made of. Let's see, next thing, tires, I guess we can talk about. We've got the GBC XC Masters up front, GBC XC Masters in the rear, and I just run, let's see, up front is 21 by 7 by 10, rears are 20 by 11 by 9. Kind of sticking with the wheels would be the mud plugs. These mud plugs came from B&R Motorsports, and they, I can see here, not sure if it'll show up, but these are actually carbon fiber as well. They're a nice light mud plug. Next thing with the front end, we'll talk about the shocks. So these are Fox Float Evol air shocks. So unlike your standard shock that has a spring and then a shaft that goes into a piston for a chamber filled with oil, instead these are all filled with air. There are some oil and stuff still in these, but the majority, like this chamber here, that's the Evol chamber, and then this is your main chamber, the big chamber here, and those are all filled with oil. And so how these work is this main chamber kind of works as your main spring, and then this Evol chamber would work as like a dual rate spring. So these are really nice shocks. They've got rebound adjustment down here, and then they've also got high and low speed compression adjustment up here, and then your air pressure adjustment works kind of as your preload, so how high your ride height adjustment pretty much. Coming off of those, we can look at the front bumper. So front bumper on this is the original PRM Summit that they made, that PRM made years and years ago. It's in really good shape compared to most of them. It's got a slight tweak right here. You may or may not be able to see it, but overall it looks pretty good. It's in really good shape. These bumpers were, they weren't making them anymore, but now I think it's Southern Kentucky Motorsports bought all their rights and their jigs and stuff, so now they're remaking them. But yeah, it's a really nice heavy duty bumper. Always held up really good, and plus they look really sweet. So okay, next thing, I guess kind of hanging around, I'm not sure, I think these are Streamline plus, I'm not sure if they're +1 or +2 brake lines, steel braided brake lines. Those work pretty good. We've got the Alba brake line clamps. They look pretty nice, and they keep the brake line in place. Also up front, you may be able to tell here, but as you can see, we have 2 pistons in the front calipers. That's because these are YFZ 450 calipers, one of the best upgrades you can make on a 400EX for stopping power. The original calipers are only single piston, and since these are dual piston, it stops way faster. Other than that, I think like the knuckles and everything, those are all OEM. They're from the factory. And then the hubs and everything as well are all factory. Okay. And then I guess it's got extended tie rods on it, but I'm not sure exactly what brand they are. Look here at the air fins. So these guys are just kind of bring a little bit more air in towards the engine, since these things are air cooled. I think these are PRM brand as well. I've got some new ones actually, because these, not sure if you can see in here, but these guys, it's broken multiple times at that mount point, so I've just had to keep drilling new holes. So I've got some new ones from CFM Performance. Okay, and then let's move back here. Let's talk about the motor, or I guess let's actually talk a little bit more about cooling. So if you see up in here, there's a little fan there. That is definitely not factory. I put that in myself. It's just a little spall fan is all it is. A little 4-inch spall fan. And I just mounted it up using some all thread around the oil cooler. And then I wired it up to my headlight switch, since I don't have headlights anymore. So all I gotta do is turn the key on, and then when I'm racing, I gotta make sure it's on low beams, and then I flip that on and fan comes on. So And then kind of related to that, I've got this oil temperature dipstick that will show me the oil temperature, and then you can kind of see I've got a red mark up here, and that's basically marked at 250 because I just, if I'm ever racing and I look down real quick at that arrow or at the little dial on that gauge, I want to make sure it's not over 250. I want to make sure it's below that. Usually it seemed at my last race it seemed to run pretty cool. I was running like just around or right below 200, so it was running pretty good. So I guess next thing we can talk about is engine. So engine, if you've seen my time-lapse video of me putting this thing back together, you'll know that I put a brand new crank in this thing just about a year ago. So the original crank, which is about 20 years old now, finally gave out. So I went ahead, bit the bullet, bought a brand new OEM crankshaft, put it in. Another big piece that really seems to boost the performance on these actually is a lightened flywheel. It was like that when I got it, so I originally didn't know the difference, but the other day I rode a 400EX without a lightened flywheel, and wow, it makes a massive difference. This thing revs way faster than any of the other stock 400EXs, so that is a big engine performance upgrade that you can make, that even honestly I think it affects it almost more than like a big bore kit. Like the big bore kit gives it more power, but that lightened flywheel really kind of wakes this thing up, makes it rev a lot quicker and stuff. Some people say you're risking being able to kill it a lot easier, which that is true, but I've never had a problem with that. As long as your clutch is set up good and everything, you'll be fine. I've never really had a problem with stalling it or anything. So other than that, bottom end's pretty much stock. We move up top, we've got a 426 Wiseco piston. It's 11-to-1 compression ratio, so bumped up from, I think stock is maybe 10-to-1, so it's not like crazy high compression, but it's a little more, gives them a little more juice. Up in the head, valves and everything are stock porting and everything. It's never been ported or polished. But up in the above the head, it's got a stage 2 hot cam, so that helps a little bit with low and mid-range torque. Yeah, so that's pretty much it engine wise. If you move back from engine, we've actually got a 450 carburetor on there. It's the 0405 450 carburetor, so I think it's like a 42 millimeter Kaheen carburetor. It seems to be a pretty good carburetor. It definitely wakes it up a little bit. It gets good airflow. And I mean, I can really tell because I've got to put pretty rich jets in it to make sure it's not running lean. So that seems to be pretty good. I guess coming back to the bottom end from my clutch video, it's got a set of Barnett clutches in it. They seem to be working really well. I think I just put a brand new starter on it not too long ago as well. I think that's just OEM. And we can talk about the exhaust. So this exhaust wrap here is just some cheap stuff I bought off of Amazon, but the reason it's there is because of the hydraulic clutch. So if I don't put that exhaust wrap on, what'll actually happen is the motor will get, or that exhaust header will get hot enough that it'll boil the fluid in that master cylinder, and then I basically lose my clutch. So that's kind of one drawback to that, is if you had a hydraulic line bust or if that thing gets too hot, you can lose clutch from that. But I think the pros outweigh the cons on that. So and then talking about exhaust, we've got an HMF full exhaust. This is the Performance series, so there's the muffler and then it's a full header, so that seems to move the exhaust pretty well, and it sounds really good. When I had this originally, it was actually kind of a brushed, kind of similar to like what the engine cases originally look like, but I took it apart, I repacked it because it needed repacked, and then I powder coated it this red finish, and then I powder coated the tip black just to kind of set it off. I think it looks really good. So That's pretty much it performance wise. I guess other than airbox, it's a stock airbox, but I've actually had the lids on there right now, but that was just because from when I was washing it after the Hoosier GNCC. But normally I run no airbox lid, and I run a uni foam filter. Foam filters seem to work pretty good for me. Just oil them up really good before each race, then clean them afterwards, and they seem to work pretty good. So I guess coming outside of that kind of stuff, we'll look at on the bottom of the frame here, I've got a metal skid plate. I'm not sure what brand it came on the quad, but it seems to do pretty well. I guess one helpful tip for people that also run metal skid plates is, like, when I clean this thing off, it rattles a lot, and so what I did is I stuck some like thin foam, like insulation that you'd put around a door or a window, and I stuck those on the bottom of the skid plate, so that way it kind of compresses between the frame and the skid plate and keeps it from rattling. So next thing, we'll come out to these Nerf bars. You've probably seen my video on installing these Nerf bars. These are Hauser Pro Bounce Nerf bars, the old style, off of a Honda 450R, and they bolt right up to a 400EX peg, but where you do have to make some modifications is right here. Normally on a 450 they mount up here, but on a 400 you can mount them down here, so you just have to drill some new holes in the mounting tube, and then you also have to take a little bit of a notch out of this bracket for the oil tank. But other than that, it's a pretty simple mount. One issue you do run into is right here, as you can see, those when you're racing and stuff, those plastics will flop around and kind of rub on those heel guards, but hey, I mean, it's whatever. I tried putting some of that foam insulation on these, but of course they didn't last. So continuing with the Hauser, on the rear end here we've got a Hauser swing arm, and the cool thing about this swing arm, I guess it's pretty heavy duty, but it's also, it's 1.25 inches longer than a stock swing arm. So basically what that does is that just helps to keep the front end down on this thing, make sure that I'm not doing wheelies and that kind of stuff going up hills. A lot of people that buy these machines, they want the 400EXs to do wheelies and stuff, but when you're XC racing and going up real big steep hills, the last thing you want is the front end coming up. So I really like it. It really seems to handle well. In terms of rear shock, this is an Elka Stage 3. It's an old style Elka, and then it's also got an Elka long travel link on it. If I can get a better view, I'm not sure you can see that there, but yeah, an Elka long travel link with a Stage 3 dual rate shock, and then the reservoir runs up here, and it's mounted actually right there. So it's nothing crazy. It's got rebound, and then it's got low speed compression adjustment, so it's not like a crazy fancy shock, but it gets the job done. Over here got an IMS shifter, a lot better than stock shifter, a little bit more heavy duty, and I think this peg's a little bit longer than the stock one, so gives you a little more room to get your boot under there. Keeping it back here, this is all stock axle. I need to get a new one because this one is actually like slightly bent, not to the point where it bounces up and down crazy, but enough that if you're riding on like a flat road or something, you can feel a little bit of bump in it. So I definitely need to get a new axle. One of the nice things is this, I believe it's a Lone Star locking axle nut, so it's got these Allen screws in here, and so instead of jacking with trying to get the stock axle nut tight and loosened, if I want to take this off, I just loosen these nuts right here and then spread it apart at the seam, and it'll spin right off super easily. And then same thing for tightening it. I can tighten it up with my hand, and then screw those down, and that'll make sure that my axle nut won't come loose. So in terms of chain, my chain's pretty dirty right now, but I run the DID X ring, so it's an O-ring chain. Seems to work pretty good. I've always had good luck with the DID chains. Sprockets, I think I'm running Sunstar front and rear. Basically I'm running 38 on the rear, which is stock, but on the front I'm running 13, which is one tooth down. That seems to work pretty well for XC racing. On the rear caliper, I've got just a Moose block off plate for the parking brake. That's simple. And then the rear carrier, I believe it's a Lone Star rear carrier with their dual row carrier bearings, so those work pretty good. Keep the quad rolling pretty good. But and then battery, I don't use anything fancy. I think it's Yuasa is how you pronounce it, the Y-U-A-S-A. The batteries that just come factory in these, so nothing major, but it works. I've also got this LS4 seat cover that I just put on. It's pretty much brand new. It's really grippy. It was my first race with it at the Hoosiers, so it was definitely a lot grippier than the normal seats that I've been running, so it seems to work pretty well. So then I guess I can talk. I think I pretty much covered everything. You can kind of look at my sponsors on my graphic. Rissler's Extreme ATV. He's kind of my main sponsor on the gas tank. He helps me out on all my parts and stuff, and I order all my parts through him. He's a really good guy to deal with, so if you're local, hit him up for anything you need for ATVs, side-by-sides, dirt bikes. He's a great guy to deal with. Adam's Suspension, he's my local suspension guy. Really great guy to deal with as well. He services all my shocks. Really great guy. GBC, those are the tires I run. Hauser, I pretty much have every Hauser product I can have for the 400, the Nerf bars, swing arm, A-arm, stem. So I love their products. The hypers, the wheels work pretty good. Fox shocks, the fronts, love those. Bell helmets, I just started running their helmets this year. They work pretty good, like them. Fly Racing, always enjoyed their gear. Seems to fit pretty well, and usually keeps me feeling good. So overall, that's pretty much the quad. So hope you enjoyed this XC walk around. This quad is pretty much built as much as you can possibly build a 400EX. So yeah, if you've got any questions about any of the parts, drop a comment down below. Try to answer as best I can, but hopefully you enjoyed this walk around of the 400, and let me know if you want to see anything else specific on it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.